This episode is brought to you by Peak, the blockchain for real-world applications and home of DePIN. If you think it's time for Web3 to get real, check out their website at peak.network. That's peaq.network. Hello everyone, Daniel from DePIN Hub over here, and today we have a special episode. We have Adrienne from POKT Network, but first I'd like to say that we are in a small, different space today, right? We have a little studio that every time we have a guest right now, we're trying to get a nicer space that we can see each other face to face, like right now, because we believe, different from a lot of other crypto narratives, DePIN is one that have the human connection, right? Much more than other ones. And it's been very interesting to be part of this ecosystem for the past 3 years. And you feel that every time you meet some other projects, they become friends. And going to like crypto conferences nowadays is like, high school reunion. It's super interesting. And I feel that DePIN is such a nice ecosystem, and I'm very happy that it's growing like the way it is after so much work that we've been doing. Well, let's get started. Thanks so much for being on the podcast. It's a pleasure to have you here today, representing POKT Network, right? They're doing like a decentralized RPC providers for all the RPC needs, everybody. So we at DePIN Hub as well, probably going to start using for the next like secret projects that's coming. So check out, guys, very soon. Could you start by introducing yourself and your background and why POKT Network?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Adrienne, or Ads in Web3, which has to be one of the lamest attempts at pseudonymity when I first started out. My background was global brand management, brand strategy. I worked in places like Diageo. I worked with brands within Unilever and Ambev and Cadbury's and various other places. And then I went off-piste. I moved to Mongolia with my husband of 3 months.
Wow.
And decided the obvious thing was to start businesses together. So we spent the next 8-9 years building services businesses, one in Ulaanbaatar, which is the capital of Mongolia, and then the other one in Singapore, serving Asia. We sold the Singaporean one, and by the time we'd sold that, the Mongolian business was under local management anyway. We had a really great team who were, over time, became shareholders. We sold that one to a Japanese investor, and we moved back to Europe. And it was about then I fell down the rabbit hole of Web3 and discovered the ideological side of crypto and what it promised for kind of individual empowerment, which I feel kind of comes back quite strongly into the DePIN narrative. And I didn't come directly to POKT Network. I spent a lot of time in DAOs. I did some consulting gigs. I joined a startup for a while, and I joined POKT Network 8 months ago, almost 9.
That's awesome. Tell me what it is to live in Mongolia, just before we jump into the technical things, because that's super interesting.
Where?
Why? And
Why?
how was it? What's the experience living there?
So I would love to say it was a very well thought through plan. The reality is it was a bottle of wine and a pros and cons list. We wanted adventure. We'd just got married and we figured we had a window before we had to start being grown-ups and making sensible choices. So, at the time, Mongolia had the highest GDP growth in the world. It had this incredible story, sitting on the world's largest untapped mineral resources, on the border of the world's largest customer for mineral resources. Low cost of extraction, high quality. It felt like a crypto bull run, like genuinely. It's the only thing I have ever felt that feels like a real bull run. Everybody had a million ideas. It was just absolutely intoxicating. And then my husband got offered a job there, and that kind of sealed the deal. So I left my corporate life and followed my husband out to Mongolia.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I've never been to Mongolia yet.
It was amazing. I highly recommend.
Have to go there. All right, let's go back to being nerds and doing things that we love as well. Tell me about POKT Network.
So POKT Network is building a Universal RPC Base layer. So any two devices that need to collaborate in some way, one of the lightest, easiest ways for them to do that is through RPC, which is a remote procedure call, which enables one device, one machine, to send a request to another and trigger that to run a query or submit a transaction as though the request was received locally. So it's kind of like pointing a remote control at a TV. You don't have to get up and walk over to the TV, but it acts as though you've pushed the button. And then it returns the response back to you. So that kind of happens through this thing called RPC. It's been around since the 70s. It's become very well known in Web3 because it's how blockchain data gets useful. It's how it finds its end user applications, and POKT Network has built the protocol so far on the basis of enabling all of those applications, those real-world applications, to connect to blockchain data and either submit a query, so kind of read state, so get information from the blockchain, or submit a transaction to the blockchain and add information, so it reads and writes. And we do that across 60 plus chains.
Wow.
So it's very lightweight, it's very versatile because we have this amazing decentralized network of about 15,000 nodes in 22 countries. We're able to do that in a very robust way. So the network never goes down. So if you set up your new product with POKT Network, you will never be caught with your RPC down. We do that in a way that's low latency, it's high performance. But a lot of that performance is optimized by our performance layer. So we build the base layer. It never goes down. It's super scalable. You can access all of these chains with one connection. And then we open that up so anybody can build a gateway on top of us. And instead of having to decentralize their own infra, they can run it through ours.
So basically, you guys are the gateway between the user and the blockchain throughout 60 plus chains. That's amazing.
Yes, we are. What's, I think, even more exciting than that is it's not actually restricted to blockchains and applications. It's only 2 machines. So it was born in distributed computing. It wasn't born in Web3. And actually, it works equally well with any large open data source. So we've got 4 teams at the moment researching use cases within AI inference, for example, where you enable AI models to become usable and accessible.
Wow. Okay, that's amazing. Actually, that's super interesting. Because I think nowadays, whenever someone talks about an RPC provider, they just think about blockchain. They don't think about, okay, I want to submit a transaction. I want to read what happened. I think with this new age of AI, with more and more machines need to be talking to each other on a higher level, I think that can be very, very interesting.
We talk about this kind of machine-to-machine future where you're going to have on-chain agents or AI agents coming on-chain, needing to be able to transact with blockchains to get paid or to send funds to other on-chain agents. And I think there is this feeling that kind of the world of the future is very machine-to-machine. And for me as a human in that world, that all being run through foundational infrastructure that is owned and governed by its users, that's paying them, that's paying them a salary or paying them a kind of, a compensation for managing that, for being that interface, it feels like it puts a little bit of power back into human hands, which is nice.
Have you guys already started talking about Web 4 instead of Web 3? Right?
Not yet. I'm loath to introduce another acronym or another term.
Another complexity, that's for sure. And then how does POKT Network differentiate itself from other competitors out there? Because I think there are some centralized ones, like Alchemy, Helios, there are others as well. What is the advantage?
Is a big one.
Yeah.
Here's where we kind of twist it slightly, in that most of the companies that you would list as being our competitors, we don't necessarily see as competitors. So I think there are some things that centralized entities do really well. I think there are some things that decentralized entities do really well. So far, there are not very many decentralized alternatives. There are a few new ones kind of coming through. So DRPC is new relative to POKT Network. Lava Network is just coming through. They should be on mainnet this year. But most of them are centralized. We are opening up our infrastructure so that we can provide that kind of foundational robustness. They can run their relays through our network at a similar cost to actually maintaining their own infrastructure. And they benefit from the fact that, it is very resilient, much more resilient than centralized services, that it has, unbeatable uptime. It is very scalable. We can scale up and down to demand spikes. We can cover all of those blockchains. We can spin up new chains relatively quickly because of our supply side. And we can do that at a cost that's not that different to actually doing it yourself, which then frees you up to focus on all the other stuff, like actually building use cases that drive adoption and innovating and squeezing out more performance and building value-added features. So, it's not really it's more co-opetition than competition.
Yeah, no, I like that. Because running your own RPC node,
It's hard, right?
pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Like I used to run the Helium ETL,
Okay.
and then I was running them from the foundation as well. And of course, we needed to run one on for Hotspotty as well. Man, so many nights that I didn't sleep because the thing was down, was broken. I have to like recover the state, and that's something that definitely any kind of like very complicated infrastructure that I can outsource nowadays. I can let other people not sleep. I can focus on my sleep, and I can focus on actually building the application and not maintaining necessarily the infrastructure. Right?
Exactly.
Right.
And especially since one of the themes that comes through whenever we talk to these kind of, I guess, erstwhile competitors and hopefully now customers, is that, you know, well, RPC is in a race to the bottom. You know, RPC is commoditizing. I think they're probably right. I think RPC is commoditizing. Commodities can be huge, very valuable businesses. They operate best at scale. We're very happy for that, you know, to take that scale play. We're not trying to kind of scale vertically. We're trying to scale horizontally, because by doing that, we ensure that all of that is underpinned with infrastructure that's owned and governed by its users. And we can, you know, instead of it being a race to the bottom, it can be a race to the base layer.
To the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. PIC is a layer 1 blockchain designed to power DePINs. Why do DePINs choose to build on PIC? It's fast, scalable, low cost, offer builders are ready to deploy DePIN SDK, and is multi-chain. So when you build on PIC, you're building for all Web3. PIC is home for the fastest growing DePIN projects, with more than 100,000 vehicles and devices deployed, over a dozen DePINs already building, and the world-leading device manufacturers such as Boss partner with them. Think of building a DePIN? PIC has a grant program for DePIN builders. If you're listening to this, remember, you're early. The POKT Network will launch in the first half of 2024. Check out PIC's channels for more details and links in the podcast description. Can you explain for the listeners, if you're listening actually on Spotify or on YouTube, I highly recommend to check in YouTube because we have a nice studio this time. Can you explain what's an RPC? What's an RPC node?
Yeah, so like I was saying earlier, kind of RPC is like this machine-to-machine communication. It's a kind of communication protocol. And an RPC node is a computing entity, which is, I mean, it might be your laptop. My husband runs them on his laptop. It might be a dedicated device. It might be servers. Some people host them in the cloud. It's a program effectively that you run that enables you to then respond to queries. So we have a protocol that directs queries from applications via our gateways. It directs the queries and it makes sure that people are paid for servicing them. And that's kind of the essential bit of how it's structured. So it just enables machines to talk to each other.
And it's one of the most important layers of the crypto world, right?
It's foundational.
Without it, nothing would work, basically.
Yeah.
How long have this company been building this product?
Yeah, so POKT Network is one of the OG DePINs, actually. So it started in 2017,
Nice.
back when Ethereum was in its first bull run. And the founders noticed that at the time, 80 to 90% of RPC relays were going through infra.
Mm-hmm.
One single centralized point of failure. And, you know, there was this whole debate about, you know, you've got these decentralized blockchains and that's great, but the access is controlled by one centralized player. And that was what they set up to fix. So they were working on that from 2017. It went on to mainnet in 2020. We're coming up to 4 years now on mainnet.
Wow, it's amazing. A lot of work and a lot of progress for sure, right? That's super interesting. Yeah, because...
There's never a dull day in Web3.
yeah, no, that's 100% sure. There's not one dull day. That's absolutely. And that's something that I really enjoy, right? There's everything. There's something new coming, new different things. And I was a lot of learning. I think that's one thing that drives me a lot as well.
100%.
Yeah, I guess a lot of people out there know that the Web2 is basically centralized into Amazon, Google Cloud, and then Microsoft Azure, basically, right?
Yeah.
Just look, I think Amazon has maybe one outage every 2 years, and then half of the internet goes down. You cannot access most of the things. And that's something that I guess you guys are solving for the Web3. That's very, very important. And also, of course, this DePIN as a narrative is something quite new. How do you see like the decentralization of the infrastructure? How can people actually contribute to the network? How was the history of like people? I guess you guys started in 2017.
Yeah.
There wasn't this really idea of like I'm gonna run my own like miner for the RPC. People were thinking maybe mining just Bitcoin or some other tokens or starting Ethereum, because that was more or less the time, right? What was the process to get more nodes involved in the POKT network?
Yeah, so by the time, I don't know exactly when nodes started onboarding. I know that by the time mainnet launched, our supply side grew really, really fast. I think we are one of the projects that did I don't know whether it was by chance or by design, but we ended up onboarding a load of DevOps people from Web 2 into Web 3. So we were the first entry point for a lot of people that are still node operators in our network, because they understood it. You know, like with infrastructure, you kind of anybody in a tech space, like we're kind of TCP/IP for Web 3. They kind of go, oh, okay, there's a service, there's a product. I get this. This isn't just, you know, to a lot of people, I think at the time, cryptocurrency would still, you know, but it's just made up. Like it doesn't
magic
feel
money.
real. It's like magic internet money. Whereas like POKT Network, they got. So actually, we found that we were onboarding people largely from Web 2. We grew our supply side really fast because of the tokenomic flywheel. And it kind of, you know, the supply side fluctuates based on demand. As demand goes up, more revenues flowing through, so more people join. It actually is very responsive.
Can you talk a little bit about the tokenomics of the POKT network?
Yeah, absolutely. So our native token is the POKT token. It's a utility token, so it works within the network. We burn POKT every time relays are paid for. So we make revenue as people send relays through the network and POKT is burnt and taken out of supply. And then we mint POKT to incentivize or to compensate the node operators, and some of that goes to the DAO as well, to the DAO treasury. So that's our basic business model. So we mint POKT to pay for people to run the services, and we're paid by gateways to provide them with RPC data. And then, you know, from a tokenomic standpoint, we've had a really important year last year, actually. So our tokenomics were an issue last time around. You know, we saw really high inflation. You know, the supply grew really fast, and we ended up seeing really high inflation. And that was one of the big learnings from last cycle. We now have inflation down at less than 5%.
Awesome.
We have a target to get it below 2% by the end of the year, if things go through the way that we plan. And the goal is to get it deflationary by end of 2025. So we will be not just revenue producing, but actually deflationary, ultrasound infra.
Let's get there, yeah. Which layer 1 or layer 2 you guys mainly build on top?
We originally took from the Cosmos SDK, but we're our own layer 1 at the moment. However, for the last couple of years, we've been working on a major, effectively a protocol rebuild. And we're going to be deploying that fully using the Cosmos SDK, using roll chains to send our data blobs over to Celestia, who are providing data availability for us. And we're in private testnet actually as of last week.
Whoa.
Hoping to hit public testnet by the end of April. And mainnet, the devs would shoot me if I said anything, but hopefully summer.
Yeah, soon. Hashtag soon, right?
Hashtag soon.
That's really interesting. I'm a developer. I'm also DevOps, whatever you want to call it. I like to set up servers.
Cool.
For the listeners out there who wants to participate by running a node, what are the requirements needed to run a RPC node? Can I choose what kind of chain I want to provide my server for? How does that work? What are the requirements?
Yeah, so you can choose whatever chains you want to support. Actually, we've got an important upgrade that we put through to the protocol in the last release to the live version, where there's a parameter, a max chains parameter, which at the moment is probably too high. So in order to make network averages and rewards, you have to support quite a lot of chains. We're aiming to change that and bring it down to one, so that actually if you are already running nodes in an ecosystem you love, you can bring your existing infrastructure, take it straight through. You carry on running your node, you add an RPC node that's, compared to running a blockchain node, very simple. And you can start monetizing access to that blockchain node.
Is it like a marketplace, or like I just set up everything and then start running?
Yeah, so it's effectively, it's a marketplace.
Because I think in like different chains require very different resources, right?
Mm-hmm.
For example, if you want to run like a Solana like node, that needs to be very, very beefy server.
Yeah.
Different chains, different requirements. So is that the way that works? Like, for example, if I want to use POKT Network to run a Solana RPC node, then is there somewhere I can look for documentation? What kind of requirements needed for different chains, I guess?
Yeah, so we have a reasonably comprehensive set of information in our docs. It's an area we're definitely working to improve at the moment, because it has got a lot of complexity, and as we come back into a new bull cycle, and we hope to see lots more supply kind of coming into our ecosystem, we're really trying to upgrade our documentation and our support and our tutorials, because it is quite complex, and obviously the chains change their requirements, and so what we try to do at the moment is we point people to the best place within the other ecosystem, so that we're not trying to maintain duplicates of all of that knowledge in our own forum. But yeah, you should be able to find everything you need in the docs, and anything you can't find, tell me.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's interesting, because I can't imagine how hard it is to maintain just so many chains, so many things are moving super quickly, right? Yeah. Web3 moves like it doesn't sleep, and it moves super quickly. Just trying to follow through 3 chains in terms of like the technical updates is really, really hard. 100%. I can't imagine for 60.
We have a great community. So we have a really good community of node operators. They have a very active channel in our Discord, and they genuinely help each other out. So there's a really good kind of collaboration that goes on, and people do seem to exchange knowledge and updates and kind of help each other a lot. We also have somebody who's kind of helping with kind of DevRel for node operators specifically, to kind of answer problems and questions. But yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah, I just get tired just to think about manage those nodes. And I guess you guys are doing a really, really good job on that. And especially the community building. I think it's one of the most important things. Imagine if you guys were just doing like a B2B play, manage everything. You're just going to complain about things that are not working and have to do everything yourself. Building like a fan base of people that can help and believe in the project is one of the best things that can be out there, right? What are the things that you're excited about in the DePIN ecosystem going forward?
There are a ton of things I'm excited about in POKT. I think I'm excited to be entering, I hope, another bull market. I'm excited that DePIN, for me, that seems to be proving a very tangible, clear use case for decentralization, for decentralization not as an ideology, but as a business proposition that unlocks tangible benefits around cost and scale and, in our case, resilience. So honestly, I'm excited for all of it. I'm excited for... I love some of the decentralized AI projects. I love the guys at Jensen. I think they are just some of the smartest human beings and nicest human beings on the planet. I love there are a number of projects in the decentralized storage space that we work very closely with, and I think they're all solving very interesting problems and also seeing genuine adoption in Web2 customers, which is great. I think that is part of what's got the whole market kind of woken up to something interesting happening now in this DePIN sector. So I don't think it's any one thing. It's just nice to see it getting the recognition, and it's nice to see traction. I feel like we're at the beginning of what I hope will be a hockey stick for DePIN.
I hope so, yeah.
I want to see the user numbers going up.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think now that finally we have a proper name for this ecosystem, it's much easier now to have, for example, DePIN Hub podcast, the DePIN Hub website. Yeah. I mean, you guys have been around for so long, but you guys been around like your infrastructure, but we're at DeFi, trying to figure out where you are. And now we're in this lovely community that we call the DePIN Hub and DePIN community, right?
Exactly.
So I think it's super, super exciting, and I'm really happy to have you also here on the podcast. Where would you like to invite the users to know more about POKT Network? Where can they learn about token, the project, and also how to become a node operator?
Yeah, so depending on what you're interested in, there are probably different places that you should start. So we have an account on Twitter. It's POKT Network. We also, and we are posting regularly there, and it's a good place to get community news. We also have our documentation, our website. We have videos and tutorials and community calls on our YouTube. We have a forum. I would probably start with docs, which you can find through the website if you're technical. Community, if you're interested in kind of getting somebody to help guide you through that discovery phase, in which case there's our Discord. Or Twitter if you just want a lighter way to kind of stay up to date with what we're doing and aren't quite sure you want to jump in, Jeff.
Awesome. Is there anything else would you like to tell our listeners, to new alphas, new things that are coming up in the future, things that you're excited about?
So the most exciting thing for me is that, I think one of the things that POKT Network is doing that is most interesting is pretty much every DePIN has decentralized supply. We also actually we're governed by a DAO that has zero governance whales, which we geek out about, but I don't think the rest of the world necessarily cares that much about. But what we're doing on top of that, I think, is really interesting. So decentralizing the demand layer, so decentralizing the access points. So most DePIN projects have some form of a gateway, whether they call it gateway or use a different term, we call it the DePIN mullet. So you get kind of, like the DeFi mullet, you get your kind of nice, kind of centralized, kind of slick interfaces at the front, and then you've got your DePIN at the back. So you've got gateways at the front, making it easy to use, building the nice interfaces, doing all the sales and BD, squeezing out juice and performance, giving you nice dashboards, etc. And then you've got DePIN at the back, making sure that it's all completely resilient, completely scalable, that it runs at low cost in a very efficient way that kind of empowers its users. And it's that combination. And most projects have some form of that. But in POKT's case, we're not building that. We've opened that to anyone else to build on top of. So it's kind of like if Uber, instead of having the Uber ride-hailing app, just said anybody can build a ride-hailing app with access to our network of drivers, all of the data we have on performance, like everything that makes Uber great, you can all have that and just build on top.
This is Teleport here.
They're
doing exactly that, yes.
There you go.
Yeah. So you guys are building basically an infrastructure that everybody can build companies and projects on.
We're not trying to build the gateways. So right now we had our second gateway. So we had one for a very long time. The goal was always to decentralize it, but that's harder. We had our second one launch back in November. We started seeing relays from them. It launched in October. They're already now over 4 months. They're giving an extra, they represent 30% of our volume on some days. We've got our third gateway that we already announced, which is a company called Liquify that are also an RPC provider. We should start to see relays flowing through from them next month. And we've got 3 more that I'm going to announce. They should be announced on the 8th of April.
Ooh.
And I'm super excited because one of them is a nice RPC provider that we work very closely with, and that's great. The other 2 are different type of gateway for us. So we've got one that's a developer community that is looking at doing, I think, something really cool around working with chains so that not only do they get public RPC and the funding for that flows back into a developer public good, but they also get a community of developers plugged into their ecosystem, and you can get hackathons and DevRel as a service and all these other things as well. So it's a really interesting proposition. And then the other one is kind of the OG web3 dev shop, and they are saying this is a way to showcase all the brilliant building talent they have in their community and do an alchemy, but built by devs for devs. So these are very exciting, and they're coming in just a couple of weeks. It'll take a while to see the volume, but the announcements will come on 8th of April, I think.
Yeah, make sure to follow POKT Network and Twitter and their website documentation. We're going to put all the links in the description. We're going to put everything that you need to do to learn how to run your node and all the links that you need to support the network. Well, thanks so much for being in the podcast. It was a pleasure to have you here, talking to you, learning more about POKT Network. I think we are most likely going to use you guys now.
Well, it's on camera, so you have to.
Yeah, exactly. Now we're going to have to use DePIN Hub because we are building things that are going to require a lot of RPC node connection. So
Amazing.
it's like something like secret project coming. So as well, it's super nice. And for everybody out there, make sure to follow dPIN Hub on social media or everywhere you need to look. We're continue building great content, and hopefully to have you again on the podcast when you have all the new announcements. And
thank you for having me.
Thanks so much.
It's been great.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome.
Are you subscribed to DePIN Hub?
I actually am, and I sent it to my husband, who is now also subscribed.
There you go. We're building great content. I heard. Which camera should I look?